After I was elected 4 years ago, myself and Bill Jensen were on the Economic Development Committee, and we started and commissioned an incentive plan to attract new businesses. This isn't putting taxpayer money on the hook. This is giving them a break to bring their business to Apex as long as they meet certain thresholds. Investment in the community, number of employees, all that stuff. If they leave in the first 3 years, then we have what's called a clawback, and we can claw back some of those incentives that they receive to bring their business here. But if they stay here long term, then obviously they got those breaks over the first 3 years on their taxes, and now they're here in the community, employing people in the community. That was one big thing that we did over the last 4 years. And existing businesses too. ATI made a major expansion. They met the thresholds for investment and new jobs created, that they also qualified for keeping their business in Apex. We kept them from leaving town and going to another city to open their business. So from an economic development perspective, we purchased 120 acres in Apex to get what's called a certified site, so that when businesses are looking to come here, we can say, hey, we have 120 acres that fit exactly what you're looking for. Here it is, it's raw, and you can go develop it. The town is putting the infrastructure in and doing all the certification, checking the boxes. So I think it's super important that we continue to attract new businesses here, to keep community going, keep people live here, right? Work here, for people that don't work remotely for their company, and have to go to a job site every day. I think that's super important. Of course, if you can work from home, that's a huge benefit too, to be home with your family. Yeah, I think those are important things that we need to keep our eye focused on, because our neighbor right down the road is doing a lot for economic development with their business park. So we need to make sure and stay attractive in Apex to bring new business here.
Thank you. Cheryl, the balancing of attracting new businesses with supporting existing businesses.
Well, I think it's so important to support our business community. About 80% of our tax base comes from the housing development, and only about 20% comes from our business development. So I strongly support that. I'm glad we have an economic development director. I think that's very important. I agree that the Cash Corporate Center, which I think was what Wesley was referring to, is very important to try to attract businesses that, as I understand, are marketed towards life sciences and clean tech and information technology and types of manufacturing jobs, because those will be high-paying jobs for Apex. And that will create an opportunity so people can live, work, and play in Apex, which could also help mitigate some traffic concerns that we're having. The majority of our workforce commutes out of Apex for their work, and only about 1,500 people live and work in Apex. So the more we can do to attract businesses, I fully support. Not only does that help our tax base, but it also helps quality of life for our residents. And finally, I'd also like to say, I also support the Launch Apex initiative, which some of you may be familiar with, but that's a collaborative partnership with Wake Tech for entrepreneurs and small business people to continue to grow and particularly develop small business opportunities here in Apex. And also, there's going to be a co-working station soon in Apex for also small business startups. So I'm very excited about the opportunities for business development, and I support it. Thank you.
Jacques?
I'm also excited about the economic opportunities here as well. Many things have already been said by my counterparts here, but I would like to add that we must continue to build bridges. And we can talk about businesses and small businesses in large industries, but everything starts with the relationship. And what I would like to do is ensure that the businesses that we have here today, that we are actually going out and talking with those business owners and finding out what they need. How can we help them? Also, we have a strong Apex Chamber of Commerce, and I want to make sure that we build bridges from the town with Joanna Helms, our Economic Development Director, and that we have a good relationship there. Because once we build that bridge, we will see great opportunities, and people will see that we're together, we're strong, and they will be more attractive. They want to come in and set their businesses here. Also, I would like to point out, as a candidate, I've seen where we come from. You know, growing up here, I remember when we had our first Burger King, right? I know that's funny, but we from Hardee's Roy Rogers, I've seen where we come from. So I'm a retired guy, and I will spend a lot of time, or hope to spend a lot of time with Joy and Helms and all our business owners and finding out what their greatest needs are and advance us in that regard.
All right, we're going to have the next question. Wes, we'll start with you on this one. What are your thoughts on using incentives of all sorts to attract businesses to the town?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we created an incentive package to bring new businesses to town. But I think with that, it's important that taxpayers in Apex are not on the hook for that, right? So we give them a tax break over the first 3 years, and it's tiered, right? Like tier 1, and I'm speaking from the hip here, I don't know this off the top of my head, but it's like you get a 90% break year 1, 80% year 2, 70% year 3, and then by year 4, you're paying 100% of your taxes that you're supposed to. If you leave early, then the town has the legal authority to go back and charge you back the 100% that you should have been paying. So the Apex taxpayers are protected in that type of situation. So it's not actually we're spending a lot of money to bring that business here. We're just giving you a tax break for the first couple of years. So I think that was an important piece that when we developed that program, that we made sure that Apex taxpayers weren't on the hook for that. So I think we should utilize that. I know Joanna is working really hard to go to Wake County Economic Development, into the State Economic Development Department, and let them know that we have this incentive package and that we have sites up getting certified or already certified to bring their business here.
Cheryl, same question.
I would agree with Wes on that. I think the 3-year incentive package seems fair and reasonable. I want us to attract good corporate citizens who want to be here in Apex for a lot of good reasons. And so I don't really have a lot more to add other than I think what we're doing is reasonable. I think our economic development team is doing a good job in trying to market Apex to a wide business community. And like Jacques had said too, I very much believe in being an ambassador for Apex on your Apex Town Council and working to build strong relationships in our community, in our very broad community, to let people know what a wonderful place we are, and hopefully we can attract some good corporate partners in that process.
Jacques, economic incentives.
All right. And again, I agree with Wes and Cheryl. So we have to continue to devote a lot of time and effort in that regard. But I will add that again, sitting down, talking with Joanna and the economic development team is going to be our best strategy, because we have to look at what's best for Apex, but at the same time look at best practices. There are some best practices that may work for other towns, but we have to make sure it is specific for Apex. So again, as I pointed out before, I have a lot of time on my hands, so I will work closely with our team to ensure that I advocate for what Apex needs, and we'll make sure we move in the right direction with incentives.
Terry, get the last one on this one.
I'm on board, man. The package that we have is fairly standard across towns, and it's something we more or less have to do, because as I mentioned earlier, every single town is doing this, and we want to have a chance at attracting businesses. We have to prepare sites. People want to shovel-ready site. They even want buildings built for them sometimes. It's highly competitive. We're in a very tough area for attracting businesses. It's the right thing to do. If anything, we do increase it, and we also need to do a better job of attracting people to our downtown area so businesses can flock to, and making sure that we have those incentives in place as well.
Cheryl, we'll start with you with this question. Apex is growing 3 new residents a day. How does the town manage this growth while maintaining its charm and its existing sense of community?
That is our challenge. You are exactly right. And that's a concern that I'm hearing from voters. I announced my campaign at Peak Fest in May, and since that time I've been trying to talk to as many voters as I can. And while there are a handful of people who just absolutely love Apex and are telling me there's not a thing in the world they would change, the majority of people that I'm speaking with are concerned about our growth because it impacts, as I said in my opening statement, it impacts our roads and our traffic congestion and our crowded schools and storm runoff from clear cutting trees and housing affordability. So I think we need to be very careful and thoughtful and planful as we move forward. We are under about 60,000 residents now, and it's my understanding with the development that has been approved, we'll be close to about 73,000 residents. So I think it's very important that your council is very thoughtful and planful as we move forward. This term of responsible growth, but also we need to talk about sustainable growth. And sustainable growth is defined as the decisions we make so that it doesn't have negative adverse impacts on the quality of life for our people, the economics, and also the environment. So I think it's just very important that we be very careful and planful as we move forward. I do not want to make additional housing development decisions without knowing where green spaces are going and without knowing where children are going to school. I think it's very important that we collaborate with our county officials as well as our school board in making very thoughtful decisions as we move forward, because that will impact the quality of life and will also impact our future as a town.
Jacques?
Growth is a concern. We all know that. And as Cheryl pointed out, just talking with citizens, that seems to be a consistent theme. And I'm very much concerned about it myself. Of course, growing up here and seeing the changes in Apex. But one thing I do want to share is there are a lot of our town staff that are doing a lot of great things to try to control this growth. And perhaps there's some things that we may not know about. So I want to make sure that we communicate what we're doing. And if that comes with progress reports, to really put it out there with our communication team to show that we are trying to make efforts in controlling growth. And to put more focus on our 2045 Advanced Apex plan, because that's a comprehensive plan that will clearly show that we are trying to do something. We're making efforts. So it's all a collaboration, not only with this council and citizens, but many other stakeholders. A regional approach, if you will, with our counterparts with Holly Springs and Fuquay. We want to make sure that we work closely with them to see if we can approach it from a state standpoint to get all the resources we need, and of course funding when it comes to traffic and other needs.
Jerry, with that growth, how do we maintain the charm, character of Apex?
Discretionary zone is the answer. As a town council, we have very few actual powers that were delegated to us by the state. The one thing we do have is called discretionary zoning. We're allowed to say no to things. Do you guys know that? We're allowed to say no to things. And what it's about is considering the infrastructure around the area, the roads, the schools, and making sure that's in there to support it. If it's not there, maybe we do the project in a couple of years. You know, it's a 2045 land use map. It's not the 2019 land use map. Sometimes you have a great project that comes along, but it's not for today because the stuff isn't there to support it.
What's one word?
Yeah, so when I think of charm of Apex, I think of downtown, right? The fire station downtown. I know there was discussion of possibly moving that. I think we finally settled on leaving it there as an operational fire station. It's actually one of the best in town as far as response times on numbers. So I think downtown charm is something that stands out to me when we talk about Apex. And so it's important that we continue to make that investment downtown. We're hiring a downtown coordinator to help develop the downtown plan. We need to keep attracting people and businesses, and we do lots of festivals, as you know, downtown. All those things are screaming charm to me. One of the things that we've done the last couple of years is updated our land use map. When I was elected 4 years ago, we had a 2030 land use map. It seems kind of ridiculous that it's so far out, right? I'm a small business owner and I claim my business for like the next 12, 24 months. I was like 10 or 15, 20 years, but then you see the time it takes from a project to get completed from start to finish, and you start to understand why we need a 2045 land use map. And we changed a lot of areas to non-residential growth, right? More businesses you bring Apex, the less houses and the less people that move into Apex permanently, right? They might drive here to work during the day and spend their money, and then they're driving back to wherever they moved from. So I think those things that we've done the last 4 years to keep that charm. We've updated our UDO, which is our development code, green space in developments. We've increased that percentage recently. I meet with every development project that comes through town. It's about a 3 to 6 month process from the time somebody has an idea to the time that you actually probably get voted on at the town council. So I'm meeting with that individual or that team through that whole process to make that project the best that it can be for Apex. And we start at this place, and then we make changes and amendments over time. So that's why when it gets to council, they've already done everything that we've talked about to make it the best for Apex. And so that's why I voted the way that I have on all these projects, because I spent a lot of time over the previous 6 months on every one of these projects. So I'll continue to do that if I'm reelected and I earn your vote in the election. I'll continue to meet with development projects and developers and talk to them about how to make it the best for Apex and keep that charm that we all love.
Remind all the candidates, keep your comments to 2 minutes as soon as possible. Jacques, we'll start with you on this one. One of the manifestations of growth is certainly roads and traffic. And looking at some of the projects in the area, certainly we know the state is responsible for most of the maintenance and construction. There have been some cost considerations that have delayed some projects. What would you, in your position as mayor, do relative to traffic for Apex?
I'm going back to relationships. That's where it starts. And I mentioned before the 2045 Advanced Apex. It's a comprehensive transportation plan as well as an updated land use plan and map. So with that, I'm going to advocate for Apex. Again, I have a lot of time on my hands now that I'm retired. So I will be meeting with the powers that be, anyone that has any impact and influence when it comes to making sure that Apex is a priority when we look at transportation issues. I keep going back to our town staff because we have professionals. We have town staff who know where we're going. They believe in the plan that we have set forth, and we have to trust them. They have spent a large amount of time making sure that we get to where we're going. So with that, I'm going to make sure as mayor that I meet with different people that understand our funding needs. And in fact, just recently I met with a congressman about our needs in Apex, and one of the things I learned is that DOT is short of funding. And with that congressman, I want to make sure that he continues to hear what we need, and I will make sure you have my word that I will be advocating for Apex in that regard.
Terry?
I agree that the biggest thing we do here is advocacy. As you mentioned, a lot of these roads are state-owned. We desperately need a widening of 64 and the 55 project. It's a shame that they got delayed. And that's one area where we need to try to revisit in the coming years, because I don't want them both done at the same time, but one needs to get done and then the other needs to get done. So advocacy is the biggest thing, both at the DOT level for projects and at the NCGA level, because we don't have the ability to charge impact fees to improve roads ourselves in North Carolina. It's something that we used to have and it's common around the country, but it got taken away. So we don't have the ability to charge each development, for example, some amount of money, add all together, and Apex can widen the road. Instead, they only are required to widen the road frontage, which gives you these accordion roads where it's like wide, and then you're only wide as it's developed. It's not the best way to do it. We also have the option, if we so choose, to just do it ourselves. They are DOT owned, but we're allowed to improve them. We just have to go through them and talk to them about the project and get them to sign off on it. And we have a lot of debt. I call it infrastructure debt. There's a lot of projects that have been built on roads which aren't able to support it, and we're stuck with it. It's already been approved, it's already there, and it's a problem. So what do? We can't charge developers, they're gone. So it's on us to eventually fill in those gaps between the accordion to get the roads to be, not have these choke points or rebuild bridges. And that might take another infrastructure bond or a roads bond or something in the coming years, but it's a big problem we're dealing with in Western Apex.
Wes, 2 minutes. What do you think about traffic and roads?
Yeah, so that's one of the downsides to growth, right? And the town of Apex only owns roughly 50% of the roads in town, and those are mainly in neighborhoods, right? I mean, we're working on the Peakway to complete that, but there were some design changes that pushed that project out further. Hopefully, we can complete that one leg across the railroad tracks, and then the northeast corner has some challenges with property acquisitions and things like that. So that's in the future, but we need to get that completed as we go around Apex. It's a shame, as Terry said, with 64 and 55 projects getting pushed, because those are in desperate need of improvements. I mean, I live right next to Highway 64, so I would like improvements too, because who knows, I might get a sound wall out of it, but because the noise is pretty loud there from the traffic. But I think we need to continue to do what we can around town, and I don't like the piecemeal, the accordion road fixes. Unfortunately, there's just no better solution. I voted against the Crossroads Forward project. That was approved where it currently is before I was elected, actually. But look at the improvements that developer made at Salem Street and 64. it's way better to go through there right now. So, you know, there are positives that development brings, improvements like that around town, but short of passing up on, which I'm not a big fan of going into more debt, especially the debt we've recently incurred with the Parks and Rec bond and the prior transportation bond. You know, we need to pay attention to this, and how do we solve this and work with DOT to improve that. So we'll just continue to have our open communications that we've had, and hopefully get them to pay attention here to Southwest Wake County.
Cheryl, you get the last word on this one.
Well, like Jacques said, I do think it's very important to build collaborative partnerships and to really advocate with the county and the state to make sure that the needs of Apex are heard and represented. I also think it's important that we lobby the General Assembly as much as we can and elect officials at the state level who would maybe be more friendly to impact fees. And so it's important to remember that elected officials at all levels, at the local, state, and federal level, impact us locally. So it's important for us to be active voters at all levels, I think, and to think about that when we're at the ballot box for lots of elections. But being a collaborative partner with county and state, and also, I think as Terry alluded to earlier, discretionary zoning. You know, it's okay to say no at times to development if we think that's just going to make traffic flows worse in the short term. So again, I think we have to just be very thoughtful as we move forward in how growth and development impacts traffic, because it is a concern.
All right, for the next question, Wes, we're going to come back to you and have you start. The town is currently in the final phases of the downtown plan. How would you describe your vision for downtown, and how would you propose funding it?
I love downtown Apex. When I first moved to Apex in 1994, it was not what it is today. I mean, I remember businesses boarded up. There wasn't a whole lot going on down there. So the growth has brought a significant revitalization of downtown Apex. With that, though, parking is a challenge. You know, we recently improved Seaboard Street. When I was first elected, I kind of brought this up to the town manager and asked if there was anything that had been put together, and there was some plan that had been created and it kind of had dust on it, and I kind of brought it back, and anyhow, now we have Seaboard Street that's much better to park on than that gravel hill that after it rained you had to watch out on. So that has been improved. Next is the sidewalks downtown. I'd love to expand the sidewalks downtown. I recently was down in Pinehurst in August, and I love the walkability down there, the ease of movement that you can get around down there. You can sit outside and feel like you're still a part of the restaurant, and you don't have people and cars, you know, parking there, getting out of your car, slamming doors, and people walking by right where you're eating. And so I'd love to see that investment in downtown to widen the sidewalks. However, that's a challenge, right? Because there's parking spaces right there along downtown. So we need to continue to try to find areas down there to add parking spaces, and maybe we can have a net zero when the new parking spaces open. You close right downtown there, so you don't lose any parking spaces. But you know, you have to be willing to walk a little bit. But I think we continue to make improvements with the lighting down there. The landscaping, I look forward to see. I think we should fund it, the final piece of that question, just with our general tax revenue. Honestly, I think we had about $140 million budget in fiscal year 1920. So I think there's room in there to fund that internally.
Cheryl, how are you, downtown, your vision and how you fund it?
Well, I would agree. I am a big fan of our downtown enhancement plan. I think our long-range planner, Shannon Cox, is amazing. I've enjoyed getting to know her. I haven't mentioned yet that I'm actually taking the Peak Academy classes right now, where some of you may know about that, but they're classes that last from May to October, where residents get to learn about the departments and the services that are provided here in Apex. And I have learned a lot about the downtown plan, and I fully support it. Because our downtown is a mecca, it's an iconic space for community building, community gathering. I also support widening the sidewalks and having the parking issues, I think, can be addressed, as I understand it from the town staff. I fully support our restaurants and our coffee shops and our ice cream places because they're places to gather and places to build communities. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing this come to fruition.
Jacques, your thoughts?
We have the best downtown in America. I think we all can agree. Everything that was mentioned by the candidates here is very important, and I also supported our downtown plan. And one thing I want to point out is the beauty and collaboration and how many people are involved with this process. So this is an example, a model for us to not only focus on downtown, but we can also take this model and also focus on other parts of the town. So, of course, the downtown is a hotspot, a main point of our community, but we also must understand there are other parts of the town that we need to focus on as well. But as mentioned before, it's great to have so many restaurants downtown that we can go to. And as Wes pointed out, you know, I grew up here too, and I remember Bennett's Pharmacy and Beasley's Grocery and all those places, and it was a very slow downtown. So now it's vibrant, and I'm happy to see on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, so many people downtown gathering. And this is what we use as momentum. So this is a good momentum for us to, again, expand outside of that. The skate park, I don't know if anyone has ever seen the skate park. It's a great place to go. But using that, again, as a model to get us to where we're trying to go with our vision. And as far as funding, we have to do everything possible to make this work. I really, truly feel that if we can get this off the ground, if we can make this work, the best is yet to come for the entire event. So I fully support it.
Terry, you get the last word on this one.
Yeah, I agree with Wes on this one. The downtown plan, I mean, I put out my vision a while ago and I advocated for it in the downtown plan. A lot of the elements, I think, were agreed with a lot of people and got in there. And then the two big things, a lot of the plan is aspirational and shows buildings that might be there, restaurants that might come. But there are a couple actionable things. And the two big ones for me are the sidewalk expansion. I want to see Salem expanded, tree-lined streets there. So we have a little shade when we're walking down Salem Street. We need to replace the parking. So we, like West Side of Net Zero, they've identified some other spaces on North Salem and Chatham that could all add up to not really losing any spaces. And I think that's important. The other big signature thing that I think we need is a downtown park, which got included in the plan. I saw maybe across by Saunders Street, but the plan has it in the depot parking lot, the chamber parking lot, and I think that's a great place for it. And as far as funding goes, these things, I agree, there's enough little projects here to be done with internally funding, a little bit a year. We'll see what we can afford, put it on the CIP plan, and just sort of do it as we go.
Cheryl, we'll start with you on this question. Given the current projected growth rate for this community, how would you propose providing housing that meets all of the needs across a wide range of economic positions and family sizes?
That is a very important question, and one that we're faced with and Wake County is faced with is housing affordability. I think about the average median price of homes in Apex is about $365,000, and they're selling for about that amount as well. And so housing affordability is a real concern. And with the development that's going on, I'm concerned about, and we do have a number of townhomes and multifamily projects that have been approved, but I'm still concerned about the costs associated with those. And Apex is one of the most expensive places to live in Wake County. And so it's my understanding we do not have a housing affordability policy, but there are plans to develop one soon, I think maybe in the coming year. And I very much would like to be a part of that, because I want the people who work in Apex to be able to afford to live in Apex. And I'm talking about the whole continuum of young families, retail and restaurant workers, teachers, firefighters, police officers. They are struggling to be able to afford to live in Apex if they want to live in Apex. So this is something that I think needs to be addressed. I think I definitely would like to partner with developers on this as we think about, I know there's room to grow in the western part of Apex. And I think it's very important that while we do this, we need to consider housing affordability within new housing projects that are approved.
Jacques, your thoughts on this?
Going back to building bridges. So with this, my campaign in building bridges, I talked about the three pillars of that bridge, and one is community, the other one is commerce, and then the other one is compassion. And we need to make sure that compassion is at the forefront, because we have many citizens who are being pushed outside of Apex. And that's disturbing to me, because I want other people to enjoy the quality of life that I've been able to enjoy for all my life. And if we don't take a stand and make affordable housing a priority, we're not a community that we say we are, because we're about bringing people in to enjoy the experiences and the opportunities that we have. So again, it's bringing the right people to the table to address this issue. I know we have our town staff working on this, but we must include partners and people who are really, that have a good understanding of affordable housing, and that includes Western Way Crisis Ministry with Beth Bordeaux, and also Reverend Tyner with White Oak Foundation, because they have people that go to them daily with their needs, and they can't afford to live here. So we must also bring our youth to the table as well, because one thing that also disturbs me is when our youth graduate from Apex Friendship or Apex High School and they go on to college, they can't come back because they can't afford to live here. So let's bring them to the table as well. Let's collaborate, and we're going to figure this out, and I guarantee that as the mayor of Apex.
Terry, your thoughts on this issue of affordable housing?
My thought is this is a very complex, multi-dimensional problem. It's going to require many different solutions, many policy tools put in place at many different levels. It's not something that at the town of Apex can solve on our own. It's not something developers can solve on their own. Developers need to begin providing affordable housing in certain larger projects. In North Carolina, we're not allowed to require that. We can just say we really like it and hope that they do it. I was told there's one lawyer in North Carolina who thinks that we're allowed to require it, and the lawyer works for Chapel Hill. But we're not of the opinion here that we're able to require it, but it's something that needs to be done. But at the same time, developers shouldn't have to go it alone. It shouldn't be on them to just provide affordable housing units. There's a variety of things the town can do as well. For starters, we need to start a fund, affordable housing fund, which could cover renovations for struggling homeowners who live in Apex today. Because affordable housing isn't just about new units, it's also about keeping the affordable units that are in town right now. They call them NOAAs, naturally occurring affordable housing. And what happens today is if you have a house and you own it, and you're maybe older, you have a fixed income, and you need a new roof, and all of a sudden 20 grand or 35 grand for a new roof, you don't got it, you have to sell. Someone buys it, they level it, and they build a little McMansion downtown. So in order to stop that, if we could provide low interest or zero interest loans or even some grants to people to help keeping some of these older homes, in Apex is a nice start. We also need to, at the next level, we can start talking about providing down payments or a fund which could, partner with a bank to provide low interest or zero interest down payments to people. We can also begin working on even some municipalities to start buying homes, or they start buying apartment buildings when they go up on the market and keeping them available for affordable housing as opposed to, again, being leveled and putting up another subdivision. So these are all tools that we have. In 2020, we've been informed there's going to be an affordable housing study, and I'm sure that out of that study will come an array of policy recommendations, and we really have to look hard and do a lot of them in order to make a dent in the problem.
Wes, you get the final 2 minutes on the issue of housing.
So, affordable housing, I also think that means affordable housing types, right? Townhouses, duplexes. We recently approved a duplex, a unique duplex project. But this is a multi-level issue, right? And I agree with what Terry said. It's not just a developer thing to solve. It's not just a town thing to solve. I think there's going to be lots of people involved, because when we all sell our house or our land, if our house happens to be on 50 acres, right, in Apex, and we all want the most for it. Well, when you get the most for it, then it's just, people are in business to make a profit, and so then it just goes on down the line, right? So I think one way the town can get involved, and we have recently, and I've been in favor of this, we have waived development fees, certain development fees for developers. I've been through my conversations with developers. I've asked how much it costs to develop a house. And think about the houses and the postage stamp size lots that they're on now. There's about $100,000, $90,000 to $100,000 investment in the raw dirt and infrastructure and everything that has to be done before they can even build a house. Well, then it turns into, as Cheryl said, a $365,000 sale price that's selling in, a week, 2 weeks maybe. So the market is there, and people are buying these houses as fast as they can build them. But we also need the affordable projects, right? Like the one over by Walmart that we just approved I think DHIC is involved in that project, but I think the town waived about $150,000-ish plus or minus of fees that they have to pay to develop that project. So I think we continue to have this conversation with all parties involved to see how we can make it work for everybody.
Thank you. Terry, we're going to start with you on this one. Should you be elected to the town council, one of the challenges faced at every level of government is how do you build consensus? How do you bring together people with different opinions, and how do you lead? What's your strategy for doing that should you win a seat on the town council?
Getting to know the people. I know the people on the town council now pretty well. I've worked with them. I've discussed and lobbied issues before, and I hope that collaboration will continue. I think a lot of things we feel the same way, some things we don't. But you have to get up there and in a respectful manner just sort of state your opinion and be able to disagree without being disagreeable. Same thing with Cheryl and Wes and Jacques. If we all, some combination of us are up there, I hope that we can work together and disagree reasonably and calmly when we need to.
Wes, the issue of leadership.
So when you're in a position of leadership, it's important to listen to everybody, but ultimately you're called to make a decision, right? And that decision might not be what everybody wants, but you met with everybody and listened to everybody. And that's what I've really prided myself on the last 4 years is I've had phone conversations with people for 30 plus minutes about whatever it is they want to talk about. I've met with them over coffee, I've met with them at Burger King to talk, or whatever the issue is, but you have to make a decision on it, right? And I think, ultimately you're never gonna, I think we can all say we've experienced making a decision and not everybody's happy with that decision, right? But, even as a parent, right, you have to make a decision in the best interest of your child and they might not like it. So, I think it's just important to keep listening to people. I've always been available for coffee meetings and I'm still available to go have a meeting to talk about an issue that might be in front of us to vote on.
Cheryl, for you, the issue of bringing people together and forming consensus.
Thank you. As a psychologist, I think, and a mother and a woman, I think I bring a unique skill set to town council. As a psychologist, I think I have a lot of good skills in listening and consensus building and mediating and facilitating, and I think those are actually good leadership skills to bring to the council. I've had a lot of opportunities for project leadership jobs in my church over the years. And like Terry said, I think it's also very important to treat people with respect. And we will not always agree, but I can pledge to you that I will treat the council members and I will treat citizens with dignity and respect. And sometimes we may agree to disagree, but I pledge to do it respectfully.
Jacques, your thoughts?
Thank you. We all want the same thing, and that's a quality of life, a great quality of life for our families. And dissenting opinions are a great thing, as long as we can be respectful to each other. The one thing that stands out to me on this issue is how we can sometimes get distracted by how we feel about certain things. And if we let distractions guide us, we're not moving at all. So for me as a mayor, I will make sure that we all work together. It's something I've done for 29 years as a police officer and as a police captain the last 12 years. So with that, bringing in the police position, mediating things is something I had to really learn and get people to settle down and respect each other. My mother always told me, love your neighbor as yourself. So this is where we have to begin. This is community. And if we don't get this part right, again, we'll be spinning our wheels. So we have to respect each other. We all bring something to the table. We bring different gifts to the table. And when we do that, we can collaborate well. So we must make sure that we all get along together first, and then we can start making some progress in different things.
Jacques, we're going to go straight back to you on this one. The question of what your aspirations and dreams are. What are 3 things that you think Apex lacks now that you would hope to see brought about that would bring more quality of life and continued economic prosperity for this community? 3 things.
I'm going to go back to the first one is affordable housing. Again, I've been blessed to have the opportunity to enjoy the quality of life here. So if we can have more affordable housing, we can bring more people in, we can again keep our youth here, And with our youth, they are very innovative, and they will create also good businesses, and Cheryl mentioned before, launch Apex. So with that, we keep our talent here. Also, with affordable housing, I want to talk about our workforce, as Cheryl mentioned before as well. We have police officers and other first responders here that really love working for this town. And let's think about it. If they live here and work here, there's a different spirit of service. So I would like to make sure that we can figure out something to keep them here. Also, more gathering places. So we talked about the downtown plan. That's a good start. But also, we must make sure that we're not missing other parts of the town. So if we can create other gathering places throughout the town, more people will be attracted to us. Now, there's a challenge that comes with that, and that's transportation and things like that. So with our 2045 Advanced Apex plan, let's stick to that and identify the things in there that will take us to the next level, and that will be what I would like to focus on to attract more people here.
Okay.
I would say my number one priority would be a comprehensive tree protection ordinance to help maintain the tree canopy cover that Apex has and maybe even increase it over time. And the way this would work is if you cut down a tree, you gotta plant another tree. And if you cut down a really big tree, maybe you gotta plant multiple trees. This is again common across the country. Planning board reform, I think the planning board could be a really effective body in Apex to move a lot of these conversations we have at the town council level sooner with the public to try to make changes sooner, so we're not all arguing at the very last moment. I'm willing to argue at the very last moment, but I prefer to change the process so that better projects get passed up to us and that changes are made sooner. So that's important. There's also an environmental review board as part of this that got passed with one of my suggestions earlier this year, and the town council approved it, and it involves making the environmental side of that be first and forefront on top of the conversation with developers. I would say affordable housing is a big priority too. I think, like I mentioned in the other question, that we need to have a really multidimensional approach to this, which both includes expecting developers to provide affordable housing, but also the town ponying up and making sure that we have funds in place to help with down payments and renovations for residents.
Wes, your 3-item list.
Continue to attract businesses to Apex. We've talked about this extensively tonight. I think that's important so that people can work here. Continue to focus on our current business districts. That includes downtown, but that also includes other business areas around town so that we don't end up with an empty shopping center somewhere. Make sure that we still pay attention to other areas of town that are vibrant and have a lot going on. Co-working space, it's something else, a big initiative that we got past the last 3 or 4 years. This is where you have a general kind of open floor space with maybe some offices, but you have 10, 20 different businesses all working in the same space. So there's a lot of collaboration going on. I think those 3 things, and I think there's 2. There's one coming to downtown, and there's one coming to a professional park. So that's going to be nice to have individuals that are working in their businesses and they can be around other people and keep collaborating, right? Like Jacques said, the youth and getting jobs right out of college and all the great ideas that they bring to the table. So those would be my 3 priorities. And I think it's important to realize too that development brings a lot of the things that we all love and enjoy around town, right? Last year, roughly $2.5 million was collected from developers for parks and rec fees, developing greenways that we all love to go on with our kids, ride bikes, walk our dogs, right? Parks that our kids play sports at. All those things are funded. A lot of those things are funded primarily from development fees that we collect from builders and developers. So we need to be mindful of where all these things come from as we continue to go forward.
Cheryl, your list.
I would agree that affordable housing is a priority in Apex and in Wake County, as I said earlier. Secondly, I think it is very important that we be very good environmental stewards as we think about our short-term and long-term future for Apex. Climate change is very real, and I want Apex to be a leader in that front. Like Terry said, I agree with the comprehensive tree ordinance because trees are so important in managing storm runoff as well as managing carbon emissions. And finally, just the broader aspect of building community. I will take the values of diversity and inclusion to your town council. I will be a voice for all people, and I want to see all perspectives honored and listened to. So I think honoring particularly marginalized communities is very important, and make sure all voices are heard. So I will bring those values of diversity and inclusion. And connected with building community is also thinking about violence prevention and even gun violence prevention. I know Apex is a relatively safe place, but gun violence impacts us all. My son was at UNC Cheryl on April the 30th when there was an active shooter there on campus, and 2 students from Apex were shooting victims. So even though we have thankfully not had that type of tragedy in Apex, I would love to have community conversation on what we can do to be as proactive as possible so that our children and our families feel safe in Apex. I know a lot of laws occur on the state and federal level, but I would like for us to have community conversation on how we can be community to one another and be proactive on violence prevention.
Well, I will commend all 4 of you. You've done such a tremendous job in sticking to the time limits. We're coming in a little under time, so on schedule and under budget, which is a good sign for anyone since you opened office. But I'm going to take a moment of personal privilege and insert one final question of my own before we go to the closing remarks. Terry, we'll start with you. I'm curious, as you think about accepting a position of leadership in this community, who inspires you? Who's your role model for leadership? Who do you think of when you think of the type of leader that you want to be?
My wife,
Wes?
My way. So yes, absolutely my wife. She's amazing at what she balances with our 4 kids and their activities and sick and everything that she has to deal with. I was a big sports guy growing up, and so I had a lot of coaches. In my high school football coaches, I look back on what he did with our football program and turning it around from we were losing, and he had us all get a belief, not only in ourselves, but in what we could do. He got us all working together for a common goal. So I think my high school football coach is probably one of the biggest role models as I look at leadership.
Sure.
I am going to say collectively women. I stand on the shoulders of many women here tonight. Women make up 51% of the population, but are very underrepresented in elective office. We need more women at the table, and there are many women that have gone before me who have worked towards reducing discrimination and oppression, not only of women, but of other marginalized groups. So I stand on the shoulders of many women who work hard for inclusion, diversity, and equity.
Jacques?
So I have to follow suit with these 2 guys. I'm going to say my wife because she has sacrificed a whole lot for me to be able to serve so many people. And, working again as 29 years as a police officer, that pulled me away from home a lot of times. And she was able to maintain things at home, to raise a beautiful daughter, Calabria, and my son, Logan. So I know with this assignment, it's going to require a lot of time. So she has already made a sacrifice and will stand with me in making sure that our citizens are served well. So I would have to say my wife.
Well, thank you all. We're going to conclude. You have 3 minutes for closing remarks. We'll reverse the order from the opening remarks. So Terry, you lead us on.
All right, I just want to thank everyone who showed up here tonight to hear more and learn about local politics. I want to thank the promotional partners in Jordan Oil Gym and the Chamber for putting on this event. This is a fantastic event. It's run really well. Other towns wish they had something like this. And I think it's really important to get the information out there and let people know what we're talking about. As far as my platform, I said a little earlier, I'm not going to repeat it. I've given a lot of specific ideas that I have tonight. Through the answers to my questions and things that I want to do. If you go to my website, terryforapex.com, there's a longer list of specific policy proposals that I have that I want to implement if I'm elected. I know that a lot of people here might not agree with all of them, maybe agree with some of them, maybe think some could be different. Please talk to me about it if you have any ideas before it's too late. But don't be surprised if I do them if I get elected.
Wesley?
Yeah, so the last 4 years, I really pride myself on meeting with everybody that wants to talk about development projects to make them the best for Apex, and I'll continue to do that on your town council. I really believe that we talked about community safety a second ago. I was the only one on the council that wanted to add another SRO, school resource officer, to our elementary schools. For those of you that don't know, we currently have one that goes around to 5 elementary schools. He asked for some help with the second one, and I was the only one in favor of that. So I think that's important. Start building those bridges and those relationships at a young age. I mean, my SRO, the first one I ever remember in school was Mr. Gilbert down here to my left, and he was an amazing individual to have in school and to build that relationship, that community police relationship with. So I think, I don't want to speak for everybody that I went to school with, but I think he did a tremendous job building bridges with students. I think it's important that we stay in our lane at the town council. There's been a lot of partisan issues that have been coming up to the town council, and I have been against a lot of them because that's not in our purview. We don't need to make resolutions and do all these things that are outside of the purview of town government. We need to make sure and represent, thank you, we need to make sure and represent Apex on our nonpartisan seats and make sure we stick to the important issues that we're faced with as a town, growing, the traffic, all those things. So please, you're welcome to go to my website, wesleymoyer.com. I'm always available to talk to anybody. As long as we're going to have a conversation, as long as it's not going to be an ambush that I'm walking into, with a group of people, or just because we think differently, we can have a conversation. And I've had lots of those over the last 4 years with people, and we've left and said, I don't necessarily agree with the other person, or they said that about me, but we had a conversation and talked about it. And I think we need a lot more of that, honestly, to keep Apex great as we go forward.
Cheryl, your final 3 minutes.
As I said in my opening statements, I am running for your town council because I care very much about people, our community, and how public policy impacts the people in our town. There are 3 core pillars to my campaign: quality of life issues, collaborative partnerships, and proactive stewardship. School safety issues are complicated. Community safety issues, I think, are complicated. While SRO officers might be a part of that equation, it's also important to think about social workers and guidance counselors and psychologists who are underfunded in our schools. So it's also important that we collaborate with our county officials and our state officials for adequate funding in our schools, because there are many issues that contribute to school safety and sense of well-being and quality of life for our children and our families. And lastly, I would like to also say that I think being a voice for all people, being a voice for inclusion and diversity and equity are issues that impact us all, and would be issues that we would want our community leaders to be advocating for up and down the ballot, whether it be town council, state officials, or federal officials. I will be that voice. These are values that are important to me. I will listen to you. I will listen to you with integrity and respect, and I want to make sure that all voices are heard, including those that have been historically marginalized. And I'm looking very much forward to this opportunity in serving you. Thank you.
Jacques, you get the last word.
Right. I first want to thank Apex Chamber of Commerce for putting this on, and also the partners and sponsors, and giving us this opportunity. And I think who I have to my right here, these are people who really care about the town. They are willing to sacrifice their time to make sure we move in the right direction. But I also want to talk about those who have come before us and who has got us to this point today. Our elected officials who served us and did a tremendous job. I also want to compliment our town staff who work tirelessly to make sure that we enjoy this quality of life every single day, although we do have some challenges. But they're working for you, and they want to make sure that we get things right. Serving 29 years as a town employee has allowed me to work with many people. That's from town staff to our citizens, our youth. And I am not finished. My passion is still here. And I want to transition into the mayoral role and take us to another level, advance us to where we're trying to go. My pillars for building bridges are community, compassion, and commerce. With those three pillars, I believe that we can ensure that Apex of tomorrow is better than Apex of today. So I will guarantee you that you will have my heart because I love people, and I want to make sure that you and your family enjoy this great quality of life from Apex, the best town to live in America. There was a tall guy that sat in a rocking chair behind Town Hall when they were interviewing him for the #1 best place to live in America. That was Money Magazine. And he said, we have a great place to live here in Apex, North Carolina. Come join us. You will enjoy it, but just don't all come at the same time. And they didn't listen to Bruce Radford. They all came. That's a great thing because we're that attractive. When you're attractive, people will come. But we also must understand we have to work together to ensure that we can mitigate those challenges. And I believe that we have great people in this town, and I welcome you. I encourage you to be involved with the process because elected officials can't do it alone. We need your help. So I'm asking you to join us. Whoever gets elected, I will listen to you. I will be with you and understand one thing. No one can outlove Apex. I'm the guy that really loves Apex. I really want to make sure that we continue to move in the right direction. My name is Jacques Gilbert, and I approve this message.
We'd like to introduce our panel, so let's give them a round of applause. Thank you very much. I want to thank the two young ladies who served as our timekeepers tonight. Stand up so we can thank you for your work tonight. Appreciation to the Apex Chamber for putting this on. The video footage from tonight's panel will be made available on their website so more people can see this. Early voting starts October 16th. The Apex Community Center runs through November 1st. Let me say personally to all four of you, I've been involved in politics a long time, and so thank you. The only way our system of government works is that people volunteer to put themselves on the ballot and then serve in office. And as Winston Churchill said, this is not the best form of government. It's just the best thing we've come up with so far. So thank you very much for your commitment to public service and your willingness to be candidates in this race. It's been my pleasure to be here tonight. Thank you to the sponsors of this, Moyer and promotional partners for making this possible. And most importantly, thank all of you there in the audience tonight who were very respectful, listened to everyone, made this a very interesting and informative session. And so a special thanks to everyone there. And with that, I'm sure the candidates will be glad to stay in the foyer for a little while if anyone has individual questions for them. And again, thank you. Have a great night and safe travels home.